Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Community Day move on Poliwrath, Counter. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now, Counter is a brand new fast move for Poliwrath, and it is a massive upgrade. Counter makes Poliwrath into an absolute beast in the Fossil Cup, probably a top 3 Pokemon, and it should be top meta in the Ultra League as well. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out Counter Poliwrath terrorizing the Fossil Cup. Hopping into the first match, picking up a pretty nice lead, Poliwrath into Ferrothorn. Now previously, Poliwrath got absolutely shredded in this matchup, but thanks to Counter, despite the type disadvantage, Poliwrath can actually win the 0 shield and the 2 shield. Poliwrath is going to shield up the first move, overfarming quite a bit, and go with the Ice Punch. Ice Punch is going to be shielded by the Ferrothorn, Poliwrath making it to Ice Punch number 2. Now this should barely not KO here. Ferrothorn is able to hang on with a sliver of HP, but Poliwrath can shield and leave this matchup with a ton of HP, and now the Grass type is out of the way, so hopefully Lanturn should do very well in the back. Opponent sends in Dewgong. They are absolutely core broken by the new Counter Poliwrath. Poliwrath firing off Dynamic Punch that would deal massive super effective damage, so Dewgong is forced to shield. And Poliwrath has taken out 1.5 Pokemon by itself. Dewgong goes for the Drill Run. It's a simultaneous swap. Lanturn into Mawile, and the opponent concedes a match. Moving into the next match, we see the Dream lead Poliwrath into Shadow Alolan Sandslash. Opponent stays in, sees the counter damage, they save switch into Ludicolo, but Ludicolo will be absolutely walled by Registeel. Registeel is going to fire off the Zap Cannon. That deals massive damage to the Ludicolo and gets the attack drop as well. Opponent in an incredibly terrible situation, as not only do they lose switch, but Registeel is going to get to leave with a move that will threaten a shield from the Alolan Sandslash. Opponent is thinking about it. Are they willing to send back in the Sandslash here? Yes, they are. Registeel going for the Zap Cannon bait, looking for the shield. Opponent commits the shield, gets the attack drop. Registeel making it to another charge move here. Sandslash now in a terrible situation where they're forced to double shield. They leave with energy, but where is that energy going to go against the Poliwrath? Poliwrath is going to shield up the first Drill Run here. Opponent in the back. They have Pelipper. In comes Lanturn, and the opponent concedes a match. We see a terrible lead in the next match, Poliwrath into Jellicent. Jellicent is an absolute wall for Poliwrath, so the good news is this team is structured with multiple Jellicent counters in the back. Both Registeel and the Lanturn in the back do quite well. The Registeel save switch is met with the Escavalier, so the good news is Registeel is able to bait out the Escav, and Registeel on top of that gets a shield advantage and an attack drop onto the Escav. Drill Run connects, Registeel makes it to another charge move, and this Focus Blast will deal massive damage if it lands, and the opponent is going to double shield. And now you can send in the Poliwrath, use it to get rid of the Escavalier, and then trust in the Lanturn to try and get rid of Jellicent and their final Pokemon. Escav will fire off the Drill Run, shielding up the first move is the Poliwrath. Poliwrath can tank 1, so Poliwrath is going to let Drill Run number 2 through. Poliwrath looking to farm, going for the Ice Punch here. Ice Punch is resisted, but it should just about be enough to get rid of the Escav, and it is. Looking to close the game with the Lanturn here. In comes the Jellicent, met with the Lanturn, and it's Lucario in the back, and things are looking incredibly good for Lanturn to close the game. Thunderbolt, massive damage onto Lucario. They do not make the Shadow Ball, and the opponent concedes a match. Tough lead again in the next match, leading Poliwrath into another Jellicent. Same game plan as before, save switch into the Registeel, and let's see what the opponent has. Opponent staying in here. Registeel goes for the Zap Cannon. Opponent catches onto Credilli. This is resisted, but the thing is, Credilli is absolutely walled here. So it looks like the opponent may be running a team that is triple weak to Registeel, and that is very good news, as Registeel should be able to take switch advantage, and that means that the Poliwrath isn't going to have to deal with that Jellicent anymore. Back in comes the Jellicent. Jellicent is going to be firing off the Shadow Ball into the Registeel, and Registeel is fine with taking this damage, as Registeel did its job of winning switch, and that way Poliwrath is freed from one of its only counters in the meta. In comes Lantern. Lantern, of course, does extremely well here. Opponent is going to send in Ferrothorn, and now we see Ferrothorn into Poliwrath once again. Poliwrath is going to be committing the shield on the Power Whip, farming up quite a bit of energy, building up 2 Dynamic Punch, and again going for the Ice Punch bait. Opponent is going to commit the shield. They're trying to close the game with the Ferrothorn, but counter Poliwrath is just so oppressive. Power Whip will be shielded. Poliwrath gets the full farm down. In comes Jellicent, and this game is done. Poliwrath putting on an absolute clinic, taking out the grass type, and Jellicent is going to have to fire off a Shadow Ball to get the KO here. Shadow Ball will be lethal. In comes the Lantern. Lantern has so much energy, going for the Surf Bait. Opponent commits the shield to add insult to injury. Lantern makes the Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt gets the knockout, and that's a good game. The tough leads continue in the next match. Poliwrath into Lantern. Again, going to be looking to save switch into the Registeel here. Opponent is going to respond with Lucario. Lucario is going to fire off the power-up punch as soon as they get there. So that's going to be an immediate no shield from the Registeel. And Registeel is going to be firing off the Zap Cannon here. Zap Cannon will be shielded by Lucario. Registeel does get the debuff. And Lucario, of course, will get the farm down. And now, going to be waiting the timer, sending in the Poliwrath, using it to get rid of Lucario, and then trust in the fact that Lantern can clutch in the endgame. We see the shield. Lucario baits with the power-up punch. That is quite unfortunate. The question is, did Lucario make the Shadow Ball here? We see the shield from the Poliwrath, and it is the boosted Shadow Ball. Lantern up a shield. This could be problematic. The Poliwrath hits hard with Dynamic Punch. Dynamic Punch is going to connect. We see Lantern into a Scavalier in the endgame, and this is going to be very tricky with the opponent having a shield advantage. The opponent baiting with the Lucario really put them in a position to succeed. Escav over farming quite a bit here, allowing Lantern to make it to a second Surf. That's going to grab a shield. Escav over farming, opponent managing their energy incredibly well here. Drill Run is going to get the KO on the Lantern. In comes the Poliwrath. Poliwrath needs to survive this and get the farm down. Drill Run does quite a lot of damage. Counters adding up. Poliwrath gets the farm down, but the Lantern had energy. Poliwrath gets knocked out by the Surf, and that's a good game. Hopping into the next match, picking up a positive lead, Poliwrath into Ferrothorn. Again, this is a matchup that is drastically improved by counter, although unfortunately it looks like the Poliwrath may have lagged to start out the match. Poliwrath is going to fire off the Ice Punch. Opponent knows it's not the Dynamic Punch, so the opponent is going to let that through. Poliwrath unfortunately did not get the counter through that it was supposed to, so Poliwrath unfortunately did end up lagging there. A save switch into the Lantern by the opponent will be answered by Registeel. Registeel is going to be met with the Surf. Registeel farming up, trying to make it to the Zap Cannon, and gets there. Zap Cannon, of course, not going to be lethal, but it does quite a lot of damage. We see the no shield from the Lantern and that ever important attack debuff. That is incredibly nice. Lantern is going to fire off the harder hitting Thunderbolt. Registeel able to survive and make it to that Focus Blast. Focus Blast will be lethal. Opponent committing the shield. They are really trying to make a play for switch advantage here. And I think you just let the Registeel go. This is debuffed energy from the Lantern, and now you can bring in your own Lantern and use it as an opportunity to get ahead on energy. The opponent's Ferrothorn, of course, is going to be aligned onto the Lantern, but the Ferrothorn took a lot of damage already, so hopefully that's a situation where Lantern will be able to close. Lantern farming up, going for the Surf here, hoping that Surf is going to be enough to KO. Opponent's Lantern is low. They're going to get KO'd. We see a switch into the Poliwrath, and Poliwrath will be answered by Pelipper. And this looks like a very winnable game. Poliwrath will get some chip damage with the Ice Punch, farming up to another Ice Punch. They're firing off the Weather Ball here, but Weather Ball is not going to be enough to KO. Poliwrath able to hang on, and now we'll get some more chip damage with the Ice Punch. Ice Punch is going to connect onto the Pelipper, intentionally not throwing any extra counters, so Lantern gets extra farm. That's a really nice play. Pelipper firing off the charge move. They did not make the Hurricane. That's just the Weather Ball. In comes the Ferrothorn, and Ferrothorn is going to get KO'd by a Lantern. Lantern makes it to Surf number 1 and Surf number 2. Lantern says, I'm not the only water type on this team beating grass types. gets the knockout on the Ferrothorn, and secures the win. We've got mirror leads in the next match, Poliwrath versus Shadow Poliwrath. But the opponent is actually still running Mud Shot, so the opponent must not have had their calm day yet. Opponent is going to fire off Dynamic Punch, and we see a shield. Farming up quite a bit of energy and returning fire with a Dynamic Punch of his own. Dynamic Punch will be shielded, continuing to farm. The counters, of course, dealing a lot more damage here, but charging energy slower. We see the double shield from the Poliwrath. Opponent sends in Quagsire, and this is going to be difficult, as the opponent has a very strong team towards Steel types, and of course, there's the Registeel waiting in the back. Quagsire not going to be able to KO with the Mud Bomb here. Poliwrath able to hang on, making it to the Ice Punch, and it looked like that may have been a CMP tie there. Ice Punch onto the Quagsire is going to get the KO. Is the opponent going to send back in their own Poliwrath? It's kind of tough to Mud Shot down here, so no. Instead, we see Lantern. Lantern, oh, I thought the Dynamic Punch was going to be reached, but the Spark gets the KO, and this is going to be uncomfortable. Sending in that Lantern. Lantern looking for the farm down here, but cannot get the farm down before Poliwrath makes the Dynamic Punch, and this is going to be a very close endgame. Going for the Thunderbolt, losing CMP. Oh no. Thunderbolt gets the KO, and I think that CMP tie is going to be the game here, as Lantern with the shield advantage, I think, is going to be able to win this. That was very unfortunate there, missing the Dynamic Punch versus the opponent's Lantern, and then losing CMP in the mirror. Two pivotal moments in this game. And unfortunately, as you're going to see, Lantern just has so much energy here, firing off the Thunderbolt. That gets the Registeel low. Registeel basically just has to hope for the lock-on farm down, as it cannot make it to 2 moves, and Surf knocks out the Regi. We see a familiar lead in the next match, Poliwrath into Jellicent. As I mentioned, this is a terrible lead for Poliwrath, but the team is structured with 2 Jellicent counters in the back. In comes the Registeel. Registeel is going to be met with Lucario. Lucario fires off the power-up punch here. Registeel not baiting, going straight for the Focus Blast here. Opponent, no shields. They get one shot. I don't know, maybe they misclicked, but that's going to be a good game. All right, hopping into the final match, one more tough lead. Poliwrath, definitely a very good addition to the meta, but unfortunately in these sets, getting quite a bit of bad luck in terms of leads. Poliwrath does very well into just about anything you can see in the meta, with, I would say, a couple notable exceptions. That, of course, being Lantern and Jellicent is the big 2, and Pelipper as well. Outside of that, going up against a lot of the other counter users, and even a lot of the grass types as well, like Ferrothorn, it can put in some very nice work, and on top of that, basically any steel type that it's seeing, it's going to absolutely crush. Escav fires off the Mega Horn. Mega Horn, of course, is resisted. Opponent sends in Lantern, and Lantern will be hit with Dynamic Punch. Dynamic Punch definitely going to hurt, and now we see the Lantern mirror. Opponent able to fire off the Thunderbolt, and we see the immediate no shield here. Opponent actually running Thunder on their Lantern, so not running the Thunderbolt, farming up and firing off the Thunderbolt. This will be lethal decision time for the opponent. They're gonna no shield. Do they send back in the Escav? Escav has taken a lot of damage through this point of the match. Opponent sends in Ferrothorn, and oh boy, Poliwrath is gonna need a big time clutch in this endgame. Thunderbolt is going to connect, farming up so much energy with the Ferrothorn, and if Ferrothorn farms down, I think this is just going to be game over. Firing off the Thunderbolt, that's going to connect. Ferrothorn looking for the farm down. They throw a move. That's big. Okay, this is still going to be very tough, but by throwing a move, maybe there's a chance. Poliwrath is going to be shielding up here as they fire off the Power Whip. The question is, can Escav make a move? Escav makes a move. Oh my goodness. Let's see it. Mega Horn rocks the Poliwrath. Poliwrath gets the farm down. This will be close. Poliwrath just cannot KO. And that's a good game. All in all, Counter is a truly terrific upgrade for Poliwrath. I definitely recommend playing the Comday and getting good Poliwraths for both the Great League and for the Ultra League as well. Politoed also gets a new move, it gets Ice Beam, but that honestly performs fairly similarly to the charge moves it already has, so the one I would focus on is making sure you get a good Great League and Ultra League counter Poliwrath, because this thing is an absolute force to be reckoned with. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.